Haruki Murakami is known for creating magical realism novels with unique ideas scattered throughout all of them. But how does Murakami handle all the ideas that come into his world? What is his process of dealing with them? Does he have a Notion account or a second brain? Does he have a notepad? Because Murakami is someone that, from what I can tell, has a strong signal and connection to the ether, to the creative energy out there. And the stronger of a connection you have to that or to your inner self, the more ideas are going to come to you. But if you're getting new ideas every single day, how do you deal with that? And today we are going to hear Haruki Murakami speak at length on his process. And my name is Ian, and here on Right Conscious, we cover everything related to Haruki Murakami. If you look at the playlist down below right now, you will see an ever-blossoming library of videos on Murakami's books, his life, and his writing philosophy. And this is the only place on YouTube that is diving this deep on Murakami. But enough from me, everybody. Let us now hear from Murakami. What sorts of features? They tend to be those striking details that make you sit up straight, that fix themselves in your mind. Ideally, those things that can't be explained away. It is best if they are illogical, or counter the flow of events in a subtle way, or tempt you to question them, or suggest some kind of mystery. You gather these bits, affix a simple label, place-time situation, and mentally file them away in your personal chest of drawers. It is possible, of course, to jot them down on a notepad or something of the sort, but I prefer to trust my mind. It's a real pain to carry a pad around, and I have found that once I have jotted something down, I tend to relax and forget it. If I toss the bits into my mind, on the other hand, what needs to be remembered stays while the rest fades into oblivion. I like to leave things to this process of natural selection. This reminds me of an anecdote I'm fond of. When Paul Valery was interviewing Albert Einstein, he asked the great scientist, "Do you carry a notebook around to record your ideas?" Einstein was an unflappable man, but this question clearly unnerved him. "No," he answered, "there's no need for that. You see, I rarely have new ideas." Come to think of it, there have been very few situations when I wished I had a notepad on me. Something truly important is not that easy to forget once you've entrusted it to your memory. And so Murakami is shattering worlds and shattering realities for a lot of you guys out there, because the classic archetypal writer that wants to show everyone he's a writer carries his notebook around and he's jotting down notes about what he sees in the world. And now we've been programmed by God knows what writing or productivity YouTuber online that you need to have a second brain, you need to have a Notion, you need to have an Obsidian. You need to have the most beautifully organized Scrivener or Google Docs of all time. But when you look back at the past, at most writers, they had none of that. Their organization skills were very subpar. And so the quest to record all these ideas is actually a pseudo form of progress. I call it shadow writing because a lot of writers out there are doing a million different things that are very related to writing, but not actually writing. They are working on character diagrams. They are plotting out the story. They're jotting things down in their notes. They're working as an English teacher. They're going to school for writing. There's like all these different things, but a lot of the time, a lot of writers don't write. And I love Murakami's perspective here because he says that if it's that important, it will stay with you. And I would agree. When I think about the things that I see out in the world that strike me, and I'm like, oh my God, I have to put that into my writing. It will have to be really strong because as a fiction author, as a poet, you know what's stronger a lot of the time than reality? Your imagination, the creative flow that you get into and what you can tap into when you are in that state. And that's where most novels are born. Most novels are not written out in the world talking to people. The writers aren't going to the bar and say, "Hey, how are you doing?" They are waking up early. They are sitting in a room for 5 or 6 hours every single day and moving into a trance-like state. And even better than that, Murakami says with that Einstein quote that you shouldn't have that many new ideas, that so many writers have 8 different projects going. They have a novel and they have this novel and they're thinking about this and they want to start a YouTube channel and they have all this stuff, but they aren't putting all their focus into one area. And if you did that, you wouldn't need a second brain. You wouldn't need a notebook because you are focused on the task at hand and getting it done. And something that I advocate for, and this is the way to grow in 2024, is to spend a long amount of time on a novel or on a book. Put thousands of hours into it. But as you are doing that, because you know what that novel is going to be, write a bunch of short stories, a bunch of essays, a bunch of poems, whatever, that's loosely related to your book, and release that online for free. but you should only be working on one of those minor little projects at a time. And so the organization here isn't that insane. And I've organized for you a free PDF down below that details Haruki Murakami's favorite books and favorite authors. It is the most comprehensive resource available anywhere in the world on Murakami's influences. So if you would like to get that, go to the link down below. And while you are down there, you may also see that on October 13th, I am launching my free writing school, which is going to be the most active, comprehensive, and dope writing group in the world. And it's going to be for free. And so if you would like to get on the waiting list down below, I would love to have you there. We're going to have daily writing challenges, weekly writing challenges, writing contests. I'm going to have 20 plus hours of content on the day of launch that will never be on this YouTube channel. And it will be a community for writers like you to improve and post some of your stuff. And so I would love to see you over there. And if you would like to join my Haruki Murakami book club, the link is down in the description below. Currently, we are reading Norwegian Wood, Kafka on the Shore, and 1Q84, alongside with 17 other books, which makes the Right Conscious Substack the most active book club in the world. You also get access to the Right Conscious Unscripted podcast, where every single week I post a couple cool things over there. And I think it adds up to over 30 plus hours of content that is not available over here on YouTube. But enough for me. Let's go back to me in this video. And funny enough, an anecdotal bit of information. I have 3 friends out there. I'll call them out. I don't think they watch this channel. Their names are Alex, Matt, and Ryan, and they are the Notebook guys. All of them have long hair. They are much smarter than I am. They have much more talent, I would say, in writing than I do. They went to schools. They've traveled around the world, but none of them have actually written a book yet. None of them, I don't think, are even close to publishing anything, even though they are probably in their mid-30s and some are getting close to their 40s, and they've been doing this for 20 plus years. And that's fine, but they're always talking about new ideas. They're always recording this and that. And I've always wondered, where would they be? Where would these guys, and a lot of you guys are like them, where would they be if they actually just dialed in and focused and cut out the external world, cut out, like, I need to listen for dialogue, I need to be a voyeur, and totally relied on themselves? Because I get it. Maybe you need to research a novel. The novel I'm writing right now, I had to spend, 100 hours researching all this different stuff because I didn't understand it. It's taking place in a historical period. But after that, it's up to me now. It doesn't have to be 100% accurate. It doesn't have to be right. I know what the landscape looks like. I have beautiful images in my mind. And now it's up to me. When Cormac McCarthy wrote Blood Meridian, he traveled around the Southwest, and then he sat down for a couple years and just wrote. Murakami goes on a vacation to a place that isn't where the story is being set. Haruki Murakami wrote Kafka on the Shore in Hawaii. He wrote Norwegian Wood in Rome. He went to all these different places and didn't need any inspiration. He didn't speak the language of anybody around him. There were no Japanese people really around, but he still somehow finished these novels. Honestly, though, we think we need all this new input, and this is actually one of the problems with writers in 2024 and a lot of different artists, is that they have so much input and not enough output. Because you probably have enough input already in your heart and in your mind to produce and progress for the next 10 years. You could never watch another movie. You can not read another book, and you'd probably be fine, especially if you aren't a beginner and have read, a couple hundred books already. If we return to the very start, Murakami says that the things you should remember are those things that can't be explained away. It's best if they are illogical or counter the flow of events in a subtle way or tempt you to question them or suggest some kind of mystery. And so these are very easy things to remember. When you see that out in the world, when you see something bizarre, it sticks in your heart. The other day, I drove a couple hours to this small town in Arizona, and I was super hungry, and I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna have to eat some small town terrible food. And I go into this diner, and I was transported into this 1950s diner, and everyone's dressed like it's the 1950s. I'm like, okay, God, this sucks, whatever. I'm gonna eat some greasy food fried in canola oil. Here we go, let's get this over with. And so I'm sitting there, and suddenly I hear that there's like a DJ spinning 50s tracks, and I look over, and it's this girl who's like 20 years old, seemingly from this small town. She looks terrible, you guys. But I'm just like, okay, this is like the local ugly girl. That's okay. They gave her a job. This is her big move, her big career. But then as I'm going to the bathroom, I look at her, and she doesn't just have like armpit hair, you guys. Like I've never shaved my armpits before. She has 4 times more armpit hair than I have, 4 times more armpit hair than I've ever seen on a man. It's just like going down her arm. I'm like, holy hell. I remember that. I'm going to remember that forever. That in this small conservative town with Trump signs everywhere, in this 50 diners with all these, blonde people who are like acting like it literally is the 50s. And a bunch of guys that look like they're out of the Outsiders movie. There's this random girl with the most armpit hair I've ever seen. Do I need to write that down? And so now in the future, when I need to create a weird character or do something like that, I could describe her. I could just throw her in, or like, throw in the elements of her arm hair or some of her personality quirks and be like, oh, okay, boom. That's easy. There's always really weird people in small towns like that kind of go against the grain, but they don't know what going against the grain is. So they're just this random, illogical formation of a human being. And so I want you guys right now, and this is an exercise to not be scared, because one of the main things I personally notice with writers in 2024 is that they think people are going to steal their idea. People are like, I can't give away my idea. Guys, I just talked about it yesterday. There are 4 million books published every year. Your idea, your random thing doesn't matter. And if someone stole your idea, let's say you put an idea down below, or let's say you gave your short story to someone and they turned it into a best-selling movie and they made $6 million. Well, that just gives you validation that you can make more ideas. That's the point. Like, people worrying about plagiarism in the fiction world is so wild, because it's not like your memoir. It's not like this is what happened to you and it can only happen one time and this is your only story. You have an unlimited well of stories. So down below, I want you guys to post a random thing, a random illogical thing that you're carrying with you for a future story. I just shared my armpit hair story. If someone wants to use that in one of their stories, I give you permission. Give me something. I want to laugh when I'm reading the comments. Tell me something that you're still carrying with you. I tell stories all the time on this channel with stuff that's still in my heart. So thank you guys for being here. Thank you guys for supporting the elevation of Haruki Murakami, because I feel like the last couple of years he's been being called a misogynist and not original and all these other things. So I'm here on Right Conscious to give praise to authors who deserve it, and I'm giving praise to you for all the great work you're going to do one day to create a literary renaissance.